Regardless of who the nominee is, if it's you, if it's Secretary Clinton, what are your thoughts on reconciliation? Whether you have to get her supporters to support you, or do you have any interest in getting your supporters to?
Well, this is what I think. I think virtually every Democrat understands that Donald Trump would be a disaster for this country if he became president. We cannot have a president who insults every other day Mexicans and Latinos, who insults Muslims, who insults women, who insults African Americans, who in a sense is doing everything he can to divide us up in order to gain some votes. That is not the kind of man we need to have as president. So I think you will see virtually every Democrat rallying around the need to defeat Donald Trump, no matter who the nominee is.
It'll happen naturally?
Pardon me?
It'll happen naturally?
I think so. I think it is, there are people who like me or people like Secretary Clinton, but there's no question that virtually all Democrats understand that Trump would be a disaster for this country.
Could you do me a favor and compare and contrast your policy for immigration with Secretary Clinton's, and why you think yours?
Well, I can't do that. I apologize because I don't have her policies of her.
Explain to me why you believe that your policy for immigration is the most effective. Why it will?
Well, I think it is a comprehensive approach, which says, number one, that the Congress must do its job and pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship. Number two, it says that if the Congress does not act, we will use the executive powers of the presidency to do everything we can to address the crisis that we face in immigration. Number three, it is a policy that says we will end the current policies of deportation. And number four, it says that at its heart, it is a policy which believes in bringing families together, uniting families and not dividing families.
What sort of executive action do you think you might have to take?
Well, we would expand DACA and expand other efforts to unite families.
Various states have, California included, are making efforts to increase the minimum wage. Will you try to preempt them, or would you try to let states reach their own?
I believe that we should have national minimum wage of $15 an hour. I know that California, New York State are moving in that direction, and I applaud that.
Do you think that would be prohibitive? It might be reasonable in California or New York, where the cost of living is much higher, or do you think that that would be prohibitive in other parts of the country?
I think what's happened in the last 30 years is we've seen the middle class of this country decline. We now have 47 million people living in poverty. We have millions of people working for inadequate wages. I think it's time to basically say that in America, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty and you deserve an adequate income.
What's the most interesting or surprising thing you've learned while you've been on the campaign trail?
Well, the willingness of young people, I think, to be involved in the political process in a way that I did not anticipate.
Even as someone that was very involved yourself?
Well, that was
as a youngster?
But that wasn't the case. I think the general assumption was a year ago or so, 2 years ago, that young people were really not that politically engaged. But I think you go to some of our rallies around this country, you'll find that is not true. That young people really want to help shape the future of the country in which they're going to be living.
Do you think that's a result of the consequences of the Great Recession, them being frustrated with the job market?
It's one of the reasons. I mean, I do. I think that young people are worried that after they spend significant amounts of money for an education, it's hard to find work commensurate with that education. I think that student debt is a big issue. Kids are finding themselves $50,000, $70,000 in debt. And I think also that young people by nature are idealistic, and they look at the problems facing this country, and they understand that we can do a lot better. I apologize. I think we've got 10,000 people out there. Okay.
Sir, thank you. Appreciate it.